Welcome to the final Beers with Rich for 2022 and Merry Christmas to one and all. I'm Rich. Well, this year IPAs have served me well, so let's keep going because the trend is your friend. What I'm drinking today, Beer Farm Brewery in Metricup, WA. I think it's just north of the Margaret River town. It's been cracked. Well, it's not bad. Smooth. Well, as it happens, the brewery has an emphasis on sustainability. Green, tinged with green. Which segues nicely to my 2022 highlights, which include stocks, and more stocks. So strap yourself in. So, what's the first highlight? One, I can't go past commodities. It's been the boom. That's been the outstanding investment call of 2022. In particular, energy. Number two, the second highlight, technology. Who would have thought? It's been through big swings and roundabouts, but technology has proven that the value philosophy is, really does work. We've picked out some bombed out stocks that I'm going to talk about that really made a big difference to our lives and livelihood. Which brings me to three, the third highlight, which could be the first highlight. Value is triumphant. It's emerged triumphant. It's a big deal. Interest rates rising to levels that make sense means that stock picking does too. So we're in a market where you're getting rewarded on picking stocks with strong fundamentals. This is what we love. Good balance sheets, cash flow, profit growth potential. All things that are being rewarded. So let's get back to commodities. Look, everyone knows the Ukraine invasion by Russia was a supply shock. Everyone knows that. But if you anticipated that the supply shock was already occurring, we're in the middle of a supply shock because there's been a dearth of investment. There's been chronic underinvestment in exploration or in terms of new production for commodities, and that's across the board. But not only this, but it's been exacerbated in certain commodities. Why? The transition to zero carbon, net zero as they say, has meant that the hunt for renewables is just getting more and more intense. And that means that the hunt for commodities required to produce those renewables is getting more and more intense. Copper, nickel, lithium. When you look at this, you've got to take the big end of town into consideration, which is what I always do. Look at your BHPs, look at your Rio Tintos, look at your Fortescues. They're all getting on the green bandwagon. And these guys are as far from tree huggers as it gets. That's for sure. Let's get to stocks, more stocks. On the battery storage front, it's hard to go past lithium producer Pilbara Minerals. Let's face it, it's the flag bearer in the sector. As well as Allkem, another big achiever. With Allkem arguably has even more impressive growth in front of it. Both these guys have won in the consolidation race. So basically, they're pioneers with first mover advantage, and they've really come ahead leaps and bounds of the competitors who have really fallen by the wayside. But there is a couple of emerging stocks that we've been covering. One of them that impressed was Lake Resources. They're having pioneered the leaching technology, so that's worth checking out. Nuclear's also been a big winner because they're working out that to get to net zero effectively with baseload power, nuclear is one of the options that's needed. So Paladin Energy and Boss Energy are reopening old projects, so they're in front, and they're quality companies. They're both about a year away from production, so that's impressive in itself. If you don't look at any other stocks in that sector, look at these two. Although I might add that we are covering another uranium stock in our first issue next year. The really big gains being made in energy with the uncertainty surrounding the sector have been in, not only from the likes of Pilbara, the lithium producers, the ones producing for the renewables, for the battery revolution, but also niche oil providers, because they're filling the vacuum of exploration. They're filling the production vacuum. So look at Karoon Energy. I mean, we've more than doubled our money on that in less than 2 years, and we're showcasing a niche WA gas stock in our next issue, worth checking, or in this week's issue actually, worth checking out. It's all happening in gas and small cap oil. What else? Like gold was written off this year. Oh, I don't need gold anymore. Oh. But I tell you what, this week I glanced at Evolution Mining, Northern Star Resources. They're up like 50% or in that vicinity in the past few months. I mean, from our recent tips, and they were left for dead. Well, that's what being a contrarian investor is about. The one thing I've learned is never ever write off gold, and I've learned that. So when it's really on the nose, that's when you have a look at them. One we tipped the other week, it's already up 10%. It's worth checking out. And then there's just quickly technology. I'm not going to go into much detail, but two definite standouts were Gentrack and Independent Research. Both those stocks had fallen like basically 80 to 90% off their highs for different reasons. They were bombed out, definitively bombed out. Fast forward today, and since we've tipped them, they have spiked 50 to 80% in a couple of months. Like that is what we're talking about going for value. Like, go and have a look at the charts. You'll see what I'm talking about. And the big takeout is look at cash flow. Do your homework on cash flow. That's what we're doing. We did some really good analysis, went deep on these companies, and what they can produce. Gentrack and Independent Research, two very different companies in the tech sector, and we've been vindicated. We don't always get it right. That's why we drink beer. But we get it more right than wrong, which is why our average returns about 70% across more than 300 stocks tipped in the past 11 years. A point I'd like to quickly make is not to borrow to invest or short stocks. I learned that the hard way. The other thing, the key thing to do is just to apply principles based on investing in companies that produce stuff, and to be patient. Wait for the right price. We'll help you with what the right price is. Our buy calls and our spec buy calls, that's where you take note. Because the biggest factor in investing is the price that you pay. That's the biggest factor when it comes to your return. So coming up, we've got these, fund manager roundtables, which are much anticipated. We've got the big names once again, the Wilson Asset Management, the Cadence, the QVG, the big names are there. They've been hunting stocks. They are really hunting harder than ever. And I might add, with more than a touch of humility this time. They've found 2022 pretty tough, but they're fighting back. The beer, a shipload of hops. Well, reading through it, what does it say? Beer Farm. It's an IPA special, India Pale Ale, well-balanced resinous ale, packed full of rescued fruit, supporting Aussie farmers. What can I say? Taste isn't everything. Merry Christmas from Under the Radar Report and all our team. And we look forward to catching up with you in the new year, because there's so much to look forward to. Cheers.